I've been studying American Jews for over 4 decades, and one thing has become very clear to me. The number of active Jews who are not Orthodox is declining. Fewer Jews who are members of synagogues, fewer Jews who care about being Jewish, fewer Jews who have Jewish friends, fewer Jews who care about Israel. All these and other measures are showing that the number of active Jews who are not Orthodox is dropping dramatically now and will continue to do so for many, many years to come. Hello, I'm Stephen M. Cohen. I'm research professor of Jewish social policy at the Hebrew Union College Jewish Institute of Religion. And I'm here to talk to you about not only what's happening, but what we can do together to make sure that in the years to come, there will be not fewer active Jews, however we define active, but a stable number, if not an increasing number of active Jews. All of this is possible. But first, let me talk to you about the problem. Let me tell you why I think that even if the number of Jews may be increasing, the number of active Jews is declining. First of all, we can divide American Jewry into 3 groups. First, there are the Orthodox. Then there are, at the other extreme, Jews who are Jews with no religion, Jews who are episodically Jewish, Jews who are partially Jewish. There are all kinds of terms for Jews who are not at all active or hardly active in Jewish life. And then there are the other Jews, the Jews, frankly, Jews who I'm very close to, Jews who are not Orthodox, yet in one way or another, they're active in Jewish life. They contribute to Jewish charities, they care about Israel, they have Jewish friends, they celebrate Jewish holidays, they at various points belong to synagogues, they send their kids to Jewish camps, so forth and so on. They don't all do all these things, but I'm talking about that population that does a lot of these things a lot of the time, certainly at some point during their lives. So here's what's happening. First of all, the number of Orthodox Jews is increasing. It's increasing dramatically. Right now, 10% of Jewish adults are Orthodox. And it turns out that of Jews under the age of 18, among Jewish children, 27% are Orthodox, almost 3 times as many as among the adults. And third, of Jews under the age of 5, 35% are Orthodox. Now, this is a great tribute to American Jewish Orthodoxy, which consists of Haredim, what others call ultra-Orthodox Jews, as well as modern Orthodox Jews. Those Jews are rapidly increasing in number. First of all, they have a lot of children, maybe not as much as they'd like, but certainly a lot more than the American average and a lot more than among other Jews. They have about 4.1 children per Orthodox family. Among the Haredim, the so-called black hat, or others called ultra-Orthodox Jews, that number is well over 5. Among modern Orthodox, it's around 2.5. But however you cut it, it's clear that Orthodox Jews have lots of children. Secondly, they marry extensively, and they marry fairly early. They marry in their young 20s. As a result, if you're an Orthodox older person, say you're 75 or 80 years old, it's a good chance not only that you have grandchildren, but you have great-grandchildren, because your descendants have married at age 20, 23, 25, again and again and again. And you're probably looking at several great-grandchildren at your age. And third, the vast majority of Orthodox Jews marry other Jews. Now, not necessarily Orthodox Jews, well, there's a lot of that, but they marry other Jews. There's very little intermarriage among the Orthodox. And fourth, Orthodox Jews, not only do they stay Jewish, they vastly stay Orthodox. It used to be that most people raised Orthodox stopped being Orthodox. Some of them stopped being Jewish. Today, over 80% of young adults who are raised Orthodox stay Orthodox. So, high fertility, rapid marriage, complete marriage, lots of in-marriage, and high retention, all is leading to a really strong growth rate among the Orthodox. And that's great. What about the non-Orthodox, the rest of us? Right now, 90% of American Jewish adults who are not Orthodox. Well, there the story is very different. First of all, we are giving birth to, on average, 1.7 children. It turns out that the demographers tell us that we need 2.1 children to stay even. And we're producing 1.7. Now, not all those kids are Jewish. Not all those kids grow up to be Jews. Why? Because we have lots of intermarriage. It turns out that in the last few years, over 70% of Jews who have married outside of Orthodoxy have married non-Jews. It turns out to be 40% among conservative-raised Jews and 80% among Reform and also non-denominational Jews, Jews who didn't have a denomination. So if you're a Reformed Jew, if you're a Reformed Jewish parent, the chances are 8 out of 10, 4 out of 5, that your child's going to marry a non-Jew. Now, it turns out that when that happens, until recently, most of the children of intermarrieds were raised as non-Jews, or they grew up to think of themselves as non-Jews. Now, there may be more children who think of themselves as Jewish today, but that's in part because so many Jews are getting married who are intermarrying, and so many have strong Jewish backgrounds. But in any event, until now, it turns out that around 43% of people with one Jewish parent call themselves Jewish. But that's not where the real demographic loss occurs. It occurs in the next generation, because we also know about the grandchildren of the intermarried. And among the grandchildren of the intermarried, only 7% of the grandchildren are being raised as Jewish in the Jewish religion. Others are being raised as Jewish but no religion, not Jewish, not sure, and all kinds of other categories. So we're in a real precipice where we're losing lots of people who have Jewish parents but don't think of themselves as Jewish. In fact, right now, there's over 7 million people who have adults who have a Jewish parent, including Madeleine Albright, including Senator William Cohen, former Senator William Cohen of Maine. And it turns out that of the 7 million people, 7+ million people who have a Jewish parent, one or two, 2.1 million no longer think that they're Jewish. There are over 2 million adults in America today who have a Jewish parent who could have been Jewish, but they say they're not Jewish. And those people are gone. And the numbers are growing. More and more people with a Jewish parent are leaving the fold. Now, this is not the whole story. The other part of the story is that because of all these influences, because of all the intermarriage and movement away from a stronger commitment to being Jewish, the fraction of those Jews who are active in Jewish life has been declining. So let me try to make this quite simple. Think about 2 generations. My generation, between those in the 50s and 60s, and the next generation, those between the 30s and 40s. If you look at these 2 generations, you find, first of all, that the next generation, the one a little younger than me, they're considerably smaller. There are fewer of them, maybe 2/3 of my generation. But not only that, they're less active in Jewish life than my generation. When you put all the numbers together, it turns out there are about twice as many people in my generation who are members of synagogues as in the next generation. There are twice as many people who think of themselves who think of being Jewish as important in my generation than the next generation. There are twice as many people who think of Israel as something that they're emotionally attached to in my generation as opposed to the next generation. There are twice as many people in my generation who have mostly Jewish friends as in the next generation. There are twice as many people who give to Jewish charities in my generation as opposed to the next generation. And if all this were true, we would be hearing stories about synagogues kind of closing and getting older or merging. We'd be hearing stories of fewer givers to Jewish federations. We'd be hearing stories of fewer children enrolling in non-Orthodox Jewish day schools, fewer children enrolling in Jewish congregational schools. If this is all true, we'd be hearing stories about fewer people being attached to Israel. If this was true, it turns out that all those stories are true, and this picture is true. We are really losing the numbers of Jews who are active in Jewish life outside of Orthodoxy. Orthodoxy is picking up a lot of the slack, but that's no comfort to me as someone who cares not just about the Orthodox, and I do care about the Orthodox, but I care about all of American Jewry. And just like I want cultural diversity in America, I want cultural diversity within American Jews. I love every way of being Jewish, although I don't identify with every way of being Jewish. I'm happy that there are ultra-Orthodox Jews, Haredi Jews, modern Orthodox Jews, conservative Jews, Reformed Jews, secular Jews, social justice Jews, Jews committed to a Republican way of being, and Jews committed to a Democratic way of being. But if we don't have active Jews, we're not going to have all this diversity. We're not going to have all this richness. Now, it turns out that although this is a big problem, and although it mirrors what's happening in American ethnicity, the study of American national ancestry groups, of which Jews are one, and it mirrors what's happening in American religion, that is, American Christianity is also going through the same process of firming up its fundamentalist side, and having lots of people who are Christians of no religion, and then losing the mainline Christian churches, and losing certainly Anglo-Catholics, if not Catholics overall. Although this is all happening to Jews as well as to Christians, to Jews as well as to other ethnic groups, it turns out that for Jews who have an extraordinary institutional culture and, frankly, a strong philanthropic base, Jews have the ability to do something about this that, frankly, other groups don't. And we know from our research that 3 basic principles can be put into effect that can help Jews get married, marry Jews, have Jewish children, become active in Jewish life, and or attract people who aren't Jewish to come to think of themselves as Jewish, be it through conversion or through other means. Well, what are those 3 principles? Principle number 1 is build social relationships. Build connections between Jews and Jews. If there are Jews who know each other or know lots of Jews when they're 16, 17 years old, we have evidence that 30 and 40 years later, they're still attached to Jewish life far more than those who had very few Jewish friends aged 16 or 17. Secondly, obviously it's not just about giving people Jewish friends and neighbors, although that's really very important, but it's also about giving people Jewish meaning and content. And we know that bringing Jews together, where they can get Jewish meaning, where they can see the importance and value in Jewish culture and religion and history, and involvement and social justice and politics and Israel and all the different ways in which one's Jewish, if they can see that, that will carry them forward as well. And the third thing is, we know how important it is to deliver this organizing, this meaning, and it's through programs that appeal to certain stages of life. We have to be very conscious that there are Jews at each stage, be they preschool kids, school kids, adolescents, college age, young adults, people who in early marriage, people with young children, and so forth and so on. There's even now a new movement called wise aging, which is helping to get Jewish people in their 60s, 70s, 80s, and beyond to find meaning in being Jewish in a special way, in a way that's appropriate for them. We have to do that for every single age group along the way. Now, it turns out that actually we know how to do this. Probably the most critical age for purposes of Jewish continuity is the adolescent time, the period between ages, let's say, 13 and 17. Every study shows that among Jews as well as among Christians, levels of attachment to religious life decline year by year by year by year. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and goes down and down. Except in some cases, it doesn't, and we're able to hold people even to elevate them. And what works for those children, young adults, teenagers, if they're coming from a day school background, which it's hard to get more Jews in the day school for a lot of reasons, but if it turns out that they've been to Jewish day schools, that's all day schools, that's a terrific way to attach Jews to Jewish life. Now, obviously, not all American Jews are going to select day schools, and the evidence we have is that our subsidies actually turn out not to be able to bring that many more Jews to day schools, although I wish they changed their minds. But it may not happen. For those who are not in day school, we know that supplementary schools in the afternoon, going beyond age 14 or so, is associated with stronger attachment to Jewish life. So if we have stronger congregational schools that can attract people, that works too. But probably most critically are Jewish camps, Jewish summer camps. We have lots of evidence that 20, 30, 40 years later, Jewish summer camps exert a lasting impact upon Jewish attachment. And the problem is that Jewish summer camps cost money. Jews are among the wealthiest groups in America, but we all forget that although the group may be wealthy, the median income is not all that extraordinary, and parents' median income may be $80,000, $90,000, $100,000 with 1, 2, or 3 kids at home, and they're hard pressed, and they're not going to easily spend thousands of dollars on a Jewish summer camp. So we need to do 2 things. We need to subsidize 3 things. We need to subsidize Jewish summer camps, and we need to build more camps. And part 3, we need to build more what someone called Hampton Inn camps. My apologies to Hampton Inn. In other words, we need to build more camps that are perfectly good camps, that are Jewish camps, but don't require the types of costs and funding that can dissuade the average American Jewish parent from sending their kid to camps. Second, youth groups. Some people say that the age of Jewish youth groups, NCSY, NIFTY, USY, BBYO, Habonim, B'nai Akiva, I know I'm leaving out some youth groups, Young Judea, that age is passé. But it's simply not true. Youth groups that have a lot of financial support are thriving. They're doing very well. We don't support our youth groups. And there are several youth groups that are not getting substantial support, and they can make a difference too. We have research that shows that people who were involved in Jewish youth groups in their teen years continue to have friends and associates and Jewish activities many, many years later. So youth groups is another area. And the last area, I only mentioned it last because it's last in the list, but it's also critical, and that is teen trips to Israel. We know that we can raise the number of Jewish youngsters who go to Israel by making the cost of travel incredibly cheap, if not free. Birthright proved that, and Birthright has had lasting effects on American Jewry. It may be the biggest innovation that will change some of these patterns and some of these trends. So what we learned from Birthright, which is available for Jewish youngsters 18 to 26, is that a trip to Israel with other Jewish youngsters, with educators' guidance, can do wonders for attachment, for in-marriage in years to come. We need to do the same thing for 15, 16, 17-year-olds, maybe even younger, because we have evidence from at least two recent studies, if not more, that teen trips also exert a lasting impact on Jewish involvement. And Jewish teens who've been to Israel, and usually they go not for 10 days, they go for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, they form great connections. Now, what I said for adolescents, and that's the full program, I can say for other stages of the life course. When you get to college, Hillel, Chabad, and others have made a major effort on college, and we know that every one of these workers, every one of these Hillel workers, Chabad, rabbis, and others who go on the campus, they actually have effects on people. We have research that shows that participation in Hillel or Chabad or other places in college increases the chances of involvement in Jewish life later on, to say nothing of being involved right then and there. Above and beyond the fact that they had stronger Jewish homes. Statistically, it's another accretion. What's the problem then with all the expansion? The problem is that we have actually very few non-Orthodox rabbis on campus. Not to say that I have anything against Orthodox rabbis, but we have a lot of those. We just don't have a lot of non-Orthodox rabbis. And there are some kids, some college students, who don't relate to Orthodox rabbis, but they might relate to non-Orthodox, to conservative, Reform, Reconstructionist, Hebrew College, or the other types of denominations that are out there. And we need to put more rabbis on campus. Next, when we get to the young adult years, we know that young adults actually have lots of interest in being Jewish. They go to Jewish films. They're on the internet. They have Shabbat dinners. There's a great initiative now to get more young adults to have Shabbat dinners. We have Moshe houses. We have all kinds of new experiments with young couples who are reaching out to young adults. We can invest in this huge demographic. We know that intermarriage exerts a significant influence on the Jewish future. But I want to tell you, and I've been a major supporter of paying attention to intermarriage. I want to say, as big as a challenge as intermarriage is to the Jewish future, there may be even a bigger challenge. That's the problem of non-marriage. All through the West, Jews included, people have stopped getting married in their 20s and even in their 30s. 1/2 of non-Orthodox Jews between 25 and 39 years old are not married. Obviously much bigger than the number who are in-married or the number who are intermarried. And the lack of marriage means that they'll have fewer Jewish kids, most likely. And because our community is structured to appeal to people who are parents of Jewish children, they're kind of off target. They're not the ones we're reaching, in part because they don't have Jewish kids they want to raise and therefore need a Jewish community to help raise them. So we have this new challenge of unmarried young people who we have to figure out how to reach as well. And then last and certainly not least, there's the young parenting age, and there are those kids. Because we have so many people who are marrying non-Jews, we have lots of people, especially when their kid is between age 0 and 4 years old, they're newly born to 4 or 5 years old, who are unsure about how are we going to raise our kid. Will this kid be Jewish? Will the kid be non-Jewish? Will the kid be both Jewish and non-Jewish? Jewish with no religion? What will this child be? And those children are, in a sense, up for grabs. They can go either way. And one thing we can do is to try to get more of those families to think about Jewish preschools. Because in Jewish preschools, I'm not so concerned about the Jewish education of the 3-year-old. I am concerned about reaching out to the parents of the 3-year-old, be they 2 Jewish parents or a Jew with a non-Jew who are parents of the 3-year-old. PJ Library, for example, reaches those people, but preschools are another critical way in which we can reach those people. And we don't have enough Jewish preschools, and the ones that we have are not at all heavily subsidized, and we can probably change the landscape by preschools. And one last thing. We are not very good about inspiring non-Jews to identify as Jews. With all the intermarriage, we have a paltry number of people who've converted to Judaism, and an equal number, by the way, who have become Jewish without conversion. Now, I know that's kind of hard to understand if you're Jewish, because if you're some other religion or identity, you can just become that identity. But for Jews, we expect people to convert. And it turns out that about half the people who become Jewish do it without converting. They become part of the family. They become part of the community. They acquire Jewish interests. They raise their kids as Jews, and they walk around saying, hey, I'm Jewish. Now, I don't want to cause a big theological controversy here, but I want to say we actually need both paths to work better. We need to have more conversion-oriented rabbis available, because frankly, the rabbis who are overworked in the synagogues don't have a lot of time to deal with converts, but we have converts who are or potential converts making themselves known, and we need to be able to help them on their journey to becoming religious converts to Judaism. And then we have to change our ethos so that if someone marries us, we regard them as one of us until they tell us, hey, back off. But basically, I would say to any parent or any spouse of a non-Jew, treat the person as if he or she is Jewish. Give them opportunities to participate in Jewish life. See if they're interested. Obviously, don't violate their identity, but bring them in. So, how are we going to make all this happen? How are we going to make camps, trips to Israel, more non-Orthodox rabbis, more rabbis to convert those who want to convert, more Jewish preschools? It turns out the answer isn't very difficult. The Jewish community knows how to do all these things. It's not that hard. It's not a question of inventing new methods or new institutions. But it is a matter of money. And the only way I see that we can raise funds for this massive effort is this video, this type of teaching, letting people know that there really is a problem and there is a solution. A massive investment of funds, and not all that massive, year after year after year, will serve to connect Jews to each other, get them to marry each other or to marry people who want to become Jews, raise their children as Jews, and raise their children and raise themselves not just to be Jewish in name only, and we have lots and lots of those, maybe even more of those than before, but Jewish and active in Jewish life. And if that happens 20 years from now, I hope, I will not be talking to you about the decline of active Jews. Well, there'll be a decline among people somewhat younger than me, but I'll be talking to you about the revival of active Jews beyond Orthodoxy. We can make all that happen with appropriate investment of attention, time, imagination, energy, and yes, philanthropic funds. Thank you very much for your attention, and I do hope we go forward from here. If you want to get in touch and connect with me in particular, please write me. Here's my email, Steve, S-T-E-V-E, 34, NYC @AOL.com. I tell you to call me, but I'm not sure which phone it'll be on, either the one in New York or the one in Jerusalem. We live in both countries. We go back and forth, mostly in New York, but we're in Israel quite a bit. So send me an email. I'd be happy to talk to you about these ideas and others that you may have for building the active Jewish middle, those who are neither Orthodox nor inactive in Jewish life, but active in Jewish life outside of Orthodoxy. Thank you. And one more thing. Whether you like this video or not, I think you found it stimulating. Certainly if you're looking at me right now. And if so, I think your friends and your family will find it stimulating. So do us both a favor. Do them a favor. Share this video with your friends and family. Thank you very much.